Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our November monthly member meeting for the National Association of Divorce Professionals. Thrilled to see you all here today. Some familiar faces, some new faces. If you don't know who I am, I'm Liz Becker, president and founder of the NADP, and also the senior trainer and developer of the Certified Divorce Specialist program. So thank you for coming here. First things first, would like to do some housekeeping items. If you can all please make sure that you rename yourself so that you add the word guest after your name if you are a guest, and member after your name if you are a member. And if you don't know how to do it, it's pretty easy. If you go up over your thumbnail, you can see three dots to the right. Click on that. It'll give you the option to rename, or also in the participants chat box, the little box for the participants, you can do the same thing. Just hover over your name and it says more, and there's a drop down. So go ahead and make sure, please, to rename yourself. And so that you'll know, the way that these meetings work is that we start off with a little of these introductions. Nicole will be speaking shortly and introducing our amazing speakers for today, who I know very well for many years, and I'm excited for them to be able to present for you. And then after the presentation, which should end at 1 o'clock, then we will be breaking out into networking groups. So members will be broken out into groups, breakout groups, to introduce yourselves. And anybody that's a guest, you're welcome to stay here with me so that I can get to know you, and you can fill in, let me know what you do and what brought you here. So on that note, just want to talk a little bit for those that are here for the first time, if you're an NADP member or a guest, what really this is about. And what NADP and this meeting is about is to bring and unite all professionals that provide valuable services to divorcing clients from the legal, financial, mental health, and real estate fields. This is something that we started about 10 years ago with the NADP, and we did it because we knew that there was a really big problem when it came to how professionals were helping their clients. Most of them had great specialty in their own lane and their own field, but there was so much information, little bits of information, but so much information from different aspects of the problem outside of their lane that they did not know. And it unfortunately creates a lot of problems because there's such overlap in the process. So it is extremely beneficial for all of you to get educated in other areas of the process so that you can ultimately provide the best service to your clients. That is also why we introduced the CDS program, to take it even a step above and understand how to communicate effectively with your clients too. Because I know one thing for sure, in the past 20 years that I've been involved in this industry, prior to NADP, as a communication skills coach, also in this world, in the divorce world, I know that it is not easy helping divorcing clients, and that can definitely take a toll on you. So I am so grateful to have so many amazing members and CDS designees that really have taken it upon themselves, and many of you are here today, to go a step above all the rest, and really educate yourself and create a community and have the resources that you need to help your clients, because you can't do it all for them. So it's so important to have that group of professionals that is close by, near, that you know well and trust, to be able to bring in for your clients. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what the NADP is about and what this call is about as well. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our amazing VP of Development and Operations, which is Nicole Shapiro.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. Good to see you today. Before I announce our speakers, I'm just going to let you know that we have a marketing workshop in 2 days, on Thursday at the same time, 12 noon Eastern. It is a marketing and content strategist who is going to be talking about using AI in social media successfully and authentically, and why LinkedIn is your secret marketing weapon in 2026. So I hope you'll join us for that. And next month, in lieu of a presentation for our monthly member meeting, we're going to have a fun holiday Zoom networking, speed networking event. So please join us for that and meet other members. I hope we'll have a big turnout for that. So let me go on to introducing our two amazing speakers today. The first is Ivy Minchell, is the founder and president of Family Wealth planning partners and a nationally recognized expert in the financial aspects of divorce. With over 30 years in financial services, Ivy helps individuals and their divorce team make informed, equitable decisions during times of transition. She was drawn to this work after witnessing the emotional and financial toll of her parents' divorce, a personal experience that continues to shape her compassionate, strategic approach. Ivy is a certified divorce specialist and is the founding director of one of the first NADP chapters in New York City since 2017. Andrea Vaca is the founder of Vaca Family Law in New York City, where she focuses entirely on non-adversarial divorce and family law. She's a leader in the collaborative law and mediation, guiding clients through separation with dignity, respect, and a focus on the future. Andrea is a certified mediator, a collaborative divorce attorney, and a past president of the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals. She was also an NADP founding chapter leader with Ivy. Beyond her work with clients, she is a respected speaker and trainer whose insights have appeared in major outlets, including the New York Times and Business Insider. So thank you both for being here. We're really excited for this presentation, and I'll let you take it away. Andrea, you're muted, just letting you know.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for getting that up, Ivy. And thank you, Liz and Nicole. And thank you, NADP. Welcome, everyone. Ivy and I are thrilled to be here today and to explore with all of you how divorce professionals can help clients move from conflict to resolution outside of the court system, even when there's been financial betrayal, deceit, and that's what we're going to be covering today.
Yeah, so thank you. And I echo everything that Andrea just said. So if there is financial betrayal it will significantly affect a marriage, and it will certainly impact the divorce or postnuptial agreement process. However, we want to begin by making it clear that not all financial betrayal is rooted in malicious intent, yet it can significantly affect client trust, the process, and overall case progress. So we divorce professionals, and financial professionals in the divorce, need to know that the progress of the case will be hampered unless we recognize the issues and address them so that both parties feel comfortable enough to proceed. So today, Andrea and I will define what financial betrayal is, how it impacts couples, and how mediators, collaborative professionals, and the divorce team who are committed to keeping their clients out of court can help clients move forward towards resolution without escalating conflict. However, before we talk about what to do when this happens, let's define what financial betrayal actually is. So we have a chat box. Why don't you put in the chat box, like, what is financial betrayal? What do you think it is? And Andrea, I can't see.
Unfortunately, I cannot use the chat.
Okay.
So I am the silent girl.
Okay. You can tell us what you think it is, being that if you want.
Sure. I mean, since I'm an advisor as well, I personally think financial betrayal is when one of the partners is basically either hiding money, taking money out of the accounts, etc., without the other partner knowing it. And it's like cheating with your money.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We see it's when the spouse hides all financial assets from the other, making bad decisions for the family.
Okay, thank you. So drum roll, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So financial betrayal are all these things that are everyone is saying and putting in the chat, but simply overall, the umbrella, the definition is that it's keeping financial secrets in an intimate relationship. But we have to keep in mind that it's not just about the money in these situations. It's also about broken trust and the emotional fallout that results. The emotional toll on the couple and their children can last long after the situation is resolved financially.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had several cases where a client discovered a secret credit card bill, and this created like a whole host of emotions. And it's not necessarily like just because of the debt, but really because of what it symbolized, like which is a lack of transparency.
Right. And it's this financial lack of transparency in marriages that is incredibly common. It's more common than many of us even realize. So we found this bank rate survey from earlier this year, and Ivy and I have done this presentation in previous years, and the statistics remain the same. We always look for the newer statistics, but they're always the same. And this year, according to this survey, many couples keep financial secrets from each other. As you can see, 40% of Americans have admitted to doing that. 33% admit spending money that their partner wouldn't be comfortable with. And we know that some financial secrets are small and forgivable, like buying another pair of shoes when there's already plenty in the closet, or purchasing that new gadget when others are already in the home gathering dust. But some financial secrets are enormous and can destroy the marriage, like incurring secret debt, not paying taxes, or taking out loans. So while those the people who keep financial secrets may be motivated for different reasons, but we see that it stretches across income lines, gender lines, the age lines. It doesn't matter. All people in all different stages of their life and in different circumstances keep financial secrets from their partners. So that means that every divorce professional here will encounter financial secrets in their cases in some form or another.
And here's some more data, right? There's a gender difference. Men hide big ticket items, such as vehicles or electronics and other kinds of luxury goods, where women tend to hide smaller, more personal items like clothing and shoes or beauty items or jewelry. And though they may have different motivations, it's still the same breach of trust. Now most couples know, well, at least in theory, they know that hiding financial information can damage a relationship. But in the moment, the consequences feel abstract, and they're easy to justify. They say things to themselves like, I'll fix it later. It's not a big deal. They don't need to know. But it's only later when the truth surfaces that the real cost becomes clear. And in hindsight, the full extent of the harm becomes evident. Interestingly, almost half of divorced or separated people say that they wished that they discussed finances before they got married. And almost 30% of married couples say the same thing. So how does this show up in our clients, in our cases? Let's go through, some of this. So financial betrayal doesn't necessarily look the same in every relationship. It can be obvious and dramatic, or it can actually be subtle and hidden for years. It can show itself in many different ways, and it can impact the couple or impact the family in various ways. So let's go through like some of the different types. So gambling. Gambling is one of the most common forms of financial betrayal because it creates such dramatic financial swings. It could be casinos, people playing blackjack or, craps, racetrack betting on the horses, sports betting. I mean, that's been a big thing in the news lately. Private gambling clubs, and especially online platforms, which, these days access is easier than ever because it's available 24/7. Now, the unpredictable swings create a period of perceived abundance, but then it's followed by like sudden shortages. And their lifestyle fluctuates due to the highs and lows of the winning and losing. So the highs are high and then the lows are low. And this creates anxiety as like one partner attempts to hide losses or chase wins. Then there's overspending, which often begins as something that, it feels harmless, like treating oneself or buying something to relieve stress or keeping up with appearances. But it then becomes chronic and it's uncontrolled and it creates a financial imbalance in the relationship. So examples of this include like clothing and jewelry, or perhaps high-end cars, or even like, frequent, excessive, large restaurant bills. The emotional spending, the status seeking, or like the attempts to self-soothe can really start to escalate. And often a partner refuses to adjust their lifestyle, even when like the finances clearly call for it. Then there's substance abuse, which, alcohol or drug addiction, that comes with both direct and indirect financial consequences, and the financial betrayal is like layered. Substances can be extremely expensive, whether they're legal or illegal, prescribed or bought on the street. And beyond the cost of the addiction itself, there's also the expenses of treatment, medical consequences, and sometimes there's that vicious like cycle of rehab programs and relapse, rehab program and relapse, and that, that cycle goes on and on. And partners often experience a double betrayal. It's the emotional distance created by the addiction, and then the strain that it imposes on the family. Pornography and sex addiction. This category, there are multiple sex partners, and that can include online subscriptions, one-night stands, affairs, escorts, and/or strip clubs. And these behaviors involve not only financial secrecy of payments, membership, and, perhaps hotel costs, but also deep emotional and physical betrayal. The hidden spending can accumulate quickly, but the deeper damage is often the breach of intimacy, safety, and transparency. And then last but not least, IRS debt, which is one of the most shocking forms of financial betrayal because it can accumulate silently, and with the partner believing that they'll fix it later. So tax issues often stem from like lying, omission, deceit, and they're often about, they lie about things like income, deductions, or unpaid taxes. And one partner may hide liabilities, or they can ignore the notices or fail to file taxes altogether. And that leaves the other partner feeling vulnerable to the legal and financial repercussions. And the discovery of IRS debt frequently creates a sense of shock because it exposes a long-term secrecy, and sometimes this could be years in the making. These activities, keep in mind, are not mutually exclusive, and there tends to be like an overlap as well as consequential impacts. So, for example, they take away time from the family. There's substantial amount of money spent. One may stop contributing to their retirement plan. They become financially irresponsible and they leverage their home, or, there's the damaged credit scores. They rack up significant debt. And if their actions are really excessive, one could lose their job. And ultimately, they may be unable to achieve their financial goals. Now, eventually, at some point, the betrayed says, how could you have done that? How dare you? I'm done. Game over. So how many of you have seen cases with financial betrayal, or what kind of financial betrayal have you seen? Anyone? All right. Well, so what happened?
I think one of the things that I just would like to put in there, although it's not perhaps active, but in terms of them seeking it out, is this whole idea of like the internet scams. That's also a form of financial betrayal, because you could say, well, like I thought I was investing in this, but it was completely a scam, and then covering it up, and the numbers are astonishing. Whether
Yeah.
it's a romance scam or it's, well, look, they shut my computer down and, I have to pay ransom. That's another whole area of
Yep.
hiding.
I have 2 clients that have had that issue.
Yeah.
Anything else in the
And
chat?
then we see someone said, Mom Melissa said, I lived all of these. Michelle Law said all of the above, gambling and hidden debt, hidden money the most. Yeah, so it's very, very common.
And sometimes
Yep.
there's multiple, a lot of times if there's one, there's several. Like I
Right.
had
Right.
one client that had sexual abuse. He was dating
Addiction.
prostitutes,
Mhm.
and he lost a lot of money on that. So he started gambling to try to get the money back.
Yep.
Then he lost his job. He had not paid the IRS the money he'd taken out of the taxes on the money he took out of his IRAs, and it just kept going and going and going. It got worse, and we was like peeling an onion. Every time we met, it was a
Right.
worse situation.
Right.
And then I was afraid he was going to commit suicide because everything was coming out. And it turned out he had also taken out all the cash value of his life insurance policy. So,
Yeah, and that's why we say they're not mutually exclusive, right? It's not one or the other. So what happens when these secrets finally come out?
Got it. Okay. Well,
No, go ahead.
there you go.
Sorry.
So when clients come to see us after there's been some sort of financial betrayal, one or many examples of that we may be hearing about when they come to our office, we first have to figure out what actually happened. So those facts that we're going to uncover with our client will influence how we approach this case. So will we be recommending a divorce process, mediation? Is that at all possible? Collaboration? Does it need litigation? What professionals might need to be involved, and might best help this couple? So we need to ask our client, whether, regardless of what role we're playing when we first see them, what was done? What actually happened that you're seeing or that your spouse is claiming was a betrayal? How was it discovered? Did the betrayer admit it voluntarily, or was it in a forced admission? We also want to know if there's any addiction or diagnosed mental health issue involved here. And we also want to find out how the kids are handling the situation, if there are children in the home, or even if they're grown children. Sometimes adult children are being put in the middle of these situations. So typically, we're told that the betrayal was discovered by one spouse who then confronted the other. But we also need to ask, did the betrayed spouse discover this all at once, or were there some signs that were being ignored during the marriage until they confronted the betrayer? So this cartoon is a little person sitting under a house of cards, and we think this can represent either the betrayed spouse or the betrayer, because either way, one or both spouses are just thinking, just believe that the house of cards will stand and not going to fall in on me. But this is a fantasy. Based on what we hear from clients facing the fallout of financial betrayal, it's very common that they have been living in this house of cards and believing that it will not fall in on them. That's the fantasy. So perhaps the betrayer thought they'd be able to pay off the secret debt that they incurred. Or maybe, they thought, once I get this one big hit, I have to just, go keep gambling, like somebody mentioned, or I'm waiting for the next bonus, and I'm sure I'll get it this time, and I'll be able to come clean with everything. Or maybe it's the betrayed spouse who had an inkling, kind of felt that the lifestyle that they're leading is way above their means, but they really didn't want to know the truth and didn't ask, some hard questions until it was too late. So in addition to understanding what's happened, what constituted the financial betrayal, we also have to find out what has happened between the couple since the discovery and since the admission and since the confrontation about the betrayal? Have there been promises to change? And if so, did those changes occur? Maybe they started AA, but they're still gambling. If the changes were made, are they lasting, or were they short-lived? Has the couple been to counseling? Has the individual, the betrayer or the betrayed, been to counseling individually? And if the betrayer has an addiction or mental health issue, have they been getting help for that? So it's vital to uncover these facts and really understand the situation that we're dealing with. So, because to truly help these couples and not make the situation worse, we need to understand what has happened, but also what the emotions are that are going on for both of these parties at this time. We need to understand that if each, we also, did you move? Yes, you did. Okay. So we also want to make, understand, because if we understand what the issues are, what's happened, where their emotions are now, then we can see how we can move forward with this postnuptial process or divorce process. Okay.
Sorry.
That's
I thought
okay.
you were done. You were done. Sorry. So I think, first and foremost, both parties need to feel heard. Financial betrayal affects everybody differently, and it's essential that both parties feel heard and validated. Often one of the partners are too ashamed to share what's happening with their community. There's a fear of judgment, a fear of stigma, or being seen as irresponsible. And this secrecy can prevent necessary conversations about lifestyle adjustments, financial realities, or social changes, especially when children are involved, because the partners may resist change because they fear it will upset the family structure and, disrupt the routines, even if it's essential for them to recover. So for the betrayer, the person who committed the betrayal is often struggling with intense emotions. Guilt, shame, and anxiety are the common ones. And they also face the strain on the relationship itself, plus long-term financial consequences that affect both partners. After the betrayal is exposed, frustration often builds. They may wonder if they will ever be trusted again or viewed as a responsible adult. This can create a very difficult dynamic because the betrayer's own emotional turmoil can complicate efforts to repair the trust. Now, for the betrayed partner frequently experiences a mix of shame, anger, and self-blame. Now, they might feel that they should have seen the signs earlier or prevented the betrayal. So the ongoing suspicious behavior often leaves them feeling confused and fearful and uncertain about their partner. Many feel like they are walking on eggshells. Many are taking on extra responsibilities at home. They're trying to protect themselves. Or, many are managing the household stress on their own too. Now, over time, this can lead to resentment and loneliness and a heightened need for emotional safety. And the broken promises, the cycles of relapse and financial instability, compound these feelings, making it even harder to rebuild the trust. The secrecy and deceit build a wall between the two parties, and communication suffers. Both are hurting, but often in different languages, in different ways, and their needs differ. And their needs differ as well, right? So, in one mediation that comes to mind, the betrayer, the spouse who had lied, they desperately just wanted to fix the problem financially. While the other spouse, the betrayed, they just really wanted emotional validation. So the team needs to be acutely aware and sensitive of the client's needs and the difference in their needs. And when there are children involved, the impact grows quickly.
Yeah, when Financial betrayal and all the resulting financial instability in the home can have a profound impact on the children. Even if the parents are keeping things quiet and trying to hide the situation from the kids, the children will feel the tension and confusion in the home, as they do in all high conflict homes. When they witness their parents dealing with the financial highs and lows that Ivy mentioned, that financial betrayal can bring even more sense of even a heightened sense of insecurity and lack of safety, because they don't know what to expect. And we'll see emotional distress of the situation playing out in real time with the kids. It's not uncommon to see children who are starting to act out in school or really struggling with their studies. They may show feelings of anxiety, fear, or even guilt. They could feel like the financial issues are their fault. If they didn't go to that camp, or they didn't ask for that bike, or if the family didn't take that vacation to Disney World, maybe their parents wouldn't be fighting right now. They could feel conflicting loyalties to the parents and not know who to trust or what to trust anymore. So we know that when children are caught in the middle of their parents' conflicts, regardless of what the cause of the conflict is, it can have long-term impact on them. And when the conflict is mixed with financial instability, we can expect these children to not only have challenges forming healthy personal relationships, but also healthy relationships with money. So if we want to lessen the impact on the children in our divorces, we as the divorce professionals need to bring down the tensions in the home and help stabilize the family and the financial situation as early as possible in the process.
And if we know the emotional issues that are going on in the family and the short-term and the long-term risks to everyone, how do we handle these matters when clients first come to us?
Yeah, so, when they first come to us, as we've mentioned, we're finding out what's happened. How are they doing emotionally? How are the children dealing with it? Well, that's been uncovered. Now it's time to determine, what does our client want for their marriage? Do they want to mend it or end it? Do they want a postnup or a divorce? Postnups are a wonderful tool in the face of financial betrayal. They provide the betrayed spouse with the financial security they need to give the marriage more time, and they provide the betrayer with a path to making up for what they've done and to stay married to the person that they probably still love. I had a couple I worked with in mediation where the husband had a gambling addiction and was racking up credit on credit cards primarily. He was drinking excessively. The wife confronted him and he agreed to go to Gamblers Anonymous. But she then realized there were even more credit card debt than she knew, and he had liquidated his IRA. He was guilty and ashamed, and he wanted to save the marriage. He agreed to go to AA and she was willing to give the marriage more time. So we worked on what the postnup could say. So he had already started AA. He agreed to continue with AA and GA, Gamblers Anonymous. She agreed, we'll take a HELOC out on the mortgage and on our home, and pay the debt off that we have. And the term said if he drank or gambled again, the marriage would end. And in that case, he'd be responsible for the HELOC, and he'd get less of their retirement savings because of the money that he had spent from the IRA. And that was just a wonderful way to mend their marriage by putting up clear boundaries and protections in place. So the postnup was a wonderful tool for them. But many betrayed spouses can't forgive what happened and have no desire to give the marriage more time. So they've understandably reached the end and they want a divorce. So regardless of whether the couple is looking for the postnup or the divorce, what we know though, for all of these couples, financial security is what everyone is looking for. And full financial disclosure is a must. That is going to be the key to keeping these cases out of the court system.
Absolutely. So, what kind of financial disclosure is needed? Well, we absolutely need complete transparency. It's the foundation for trust and for safety, whether the couple stays together or separates. So the question is, like, how far back should we examine their records? Well, I'm going to give an attorney's answer. It depends, right? Sometimes 2 years is sufficient, and sometimes it's 5 or perhaps even longer, right? There's no one size that like fits all. We need to stay flexible and base it on the client's circumstances. Some key documents that you'll need to gather would be bank, investments, and credit card statements. You want tax returns, loan and or mortgage applications. You know, we have to review everything very carefully and really go through the documents with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, I like to think of it as opening the financial kimono. So whether the clients are seeking a postnuptial agreement or divorce, structured disclosure and gradual transparency are really essential for both parties to feel safe and to move forward. This is the stabilizing stage. Before making any decisions, both parties must feel secure. And transparency, by the way, isn't just about documents. It's also about like restoring some sense of control and clarity in a situation that's been emotionally challenging. But as many of us have seen, once trust is broken, every single number feels suspect, and the path to resolution can get bumpy.
Yeah, it's bumpy indeed. So that's why before we discuss how we as divorce professionals can help resolve these matters with financial betrayal outside of court and using mediation or collaborative, which is in our title, we need to address why these cases do often end up in litigation. And one very, very obvious reason is that the matters that involve hidden assets and debts and misused funds, they lead to broken trust and financial insecurity. It's pretty simple. And financial insecurity leads to conflict between the couple. And that conflict then impacts what each sees as a fair division of what's left, whether it's assets or liabilities. And then during the fine-tooth comb investigation of the finances and all the records, it's not uncommon to uncover additional financial wrongdoing, like one of our members explained it happened in her case. And this leads to more mistrust. But as a divorce attorney, I also know that we, divorce attorneys, can unintentionally reinforce that mistrust. So in our mission to zealously advocate for our clients, we very often can make the situation worse. So do any of these examples sound familiar from when you've represented a client who's been financially betrayed? We validate the worst case interpretations that play into the client's paranoid thinking. We say things like, you're right to be suspicious. If he lied once, he's probably lying about everything else too. Or we treat every financial detail as a sign of deception, and we see those patterns of deceit everywhere. If he withdrew $200 from your ATM, he's definitely hiding cash. We have to find it. Or we use inflammatory language that turns very ambiguous situations into proof that there's been this uncalculated malice. He forgot to mention that bonus, so that's not oversight, that's gaslighting, and he's probably hiding more. I have thought these things in my head. I used to litigate. Even now, when people come to me, I will think these sorts of things when I hear these facts, and I have to stop myself and calm down, because we can get very triggered by these facts, and we can really fall into going along with the client's understandable fear and paranoia about what's really happening. But if we want to help keep these couples out of court and find creative solutions that protects each of them and their children and allows them to move on with more financially secure lives, the best thing we can do is to take a breath and make sure we bring in other professionals to this process, to the negotiating table, so that we can see the whole picture and really understand what's going on.
Absolutely. So we all know that divorce is a legal process with emotional and financial implications, right? That's why we're all members of the NADP, right? Financial betrayal is really no different. It isn't just a legal problem, it's deeply emotional, and of course it has significant financial consequences. So that's why like a well-aligned professional team can truly change the story for these clients and turn chaos into clarity. So let's talk about the core team. So typically it includes 2 resolution-minded attorneys, either as part of the collaborative team or as a consulting advisor, a mediator if the clients choose to mediate, a certified divorce financial analyst, a mental health professional or coach, a child specialist to bring the voice of the children to the case, and if needed, a forensic accountant. And each one of these professionals bring a unique perspective that it allows us to address the heart and the numbers. And here's the magic of the team. In collaborative or mediation processes, they don't just provide expertise, they protect the client's privacy and they tackle the situation creatively. They work cooperatively versus competitively. And instead of just reacting, the team helps clients make strategic choices that are grounded both in emotional safety and financial sense. Now, I know Andrea and I have seen firsthand how having a coach involved in the case has really like shifted the tone of the case. And I'm sure many of you have seen that as well. So the clients also benefit from the neutral oversight, like the mediator or the financial professional or the coach can spend focused time with each one of the parties. For the betrayed, it's about understanding what happened and taking steps towards healing. For the betrayer, it's about learning how to rebuild trust and regain function in the relationship. So now I know a lot of you are thinking, let's address the elephant in the room, right? A lot of you are thinking that like all of these professionals like sound so pricey. Well, yes, the team approach can feel expensive upfront, but here's the financial benefit. It's far, far more efficient in the long run. A well-aligned team prevents duplication, reduces adversarial posturing, and often reaches settlements faster than litigation, where, quite frankly, the trust breakdown prolongs every single phase. Also, the hourly rate of the coach or the financial professional is typically less than an attorney's rate. And by catching issues early and guiding decisions, the team can also prevent costly mistakes later. So in the end, the team approach balances emotional care with financial and legal guidance. The clients gain clarity, safety, and control, and this ensures that decisions are informed, thoughtful, and most importantly, sustainable.
Yeah, and don't forget the professionals benefit too from having that team around them.
Yep.
The financial professionals can help relieve the pressure on the mediators who probably want to dig a little deeper, but they have to stay neutral. Having the financial neutral on the team will allow that to happen. And the attorneys have a lot of intensity. These are intense emotions we're dealing with, and it could be hard between the attorneys or the other professionals. And sometimes we get aligned with our clients. So calling on the other team members to help each individual team member is also really a very positive and impactful part of having a team. But it's not enough to just have a bunch of professionals working with the couple. They need to be aligned. So we have to have a shared goal of helping these clients reach a private and creative solution that works for everybody. We also have to model the behavior we want from the clients. We need to demonstrate respect for each other, transparency, and identify what those shared goals are. So then we give the clients the permission to do the same. So the neutrals on the team will help ensure that the financial and the emotional challenges are properly uncovered and addressed, which allow us to move forward towards a resolution. And when we start showing that we can trust each other and that we're following through on what we say we'll do, we give our clients permission to trust again too.
After financial betrayal, like trust doesn't just like magically return, right? It has to be rebuilt carefully and deliberately. And small agreements can accomplish this. You know, small interim agreements that are, you know, they are incredibly important and they create the foundation for trust that is slow, steady, and durable. So it's not that the betrayed will never be able to trust again. Their trusting nature is simply bruised. And for the betrayer, it can be frustrating to realize that the trust cannot be restored overnight. So both sides need to understand that this is a process and it's not a quick fix. So we start with practical, tangible steps that demonstrate reliability and accountability. So for example, you know, gathering all of the relevant financial documents and building a realistic spending plan together. This helps both parties feel grounded and informed. So here are some examples of small agreements that you can make. So, you know, have the parties agree, let's say that like no purchases over a certain amounts will be made on a credit card without mutual consent. This really protects both of them and shows a commitment to transparency. Or, you know, agree to continue therapy, you know, or counseling or addiction support group, whatever, you know, whatever's relevant for their situation. And this signals accountability and ongoing personal growth. Or agree to maintain the parenting schedule, you know, following through on the commitments for the children really reinforce stability and reliability. Each small yes, each act of consistency adds up. And trust doesn't have to be rebuilt all at once. Each agreement, each step forward strengthens the foundation. And over time, these small actions lead to like meaningful, lasting trust. So it is important to be aware and acknowledge the emotional challenges. The betrayer may feel like they'll never be able to trust anyone again, or the betrayer may feel frustrated that their, you know, intentions aren't enough to regain immediate trust. It's critical to encourage both parties to be patient with themselves and with the other. Trust is earned over time, and the small agreements are not just practical, they're really symbolic. You know, they're showing the commitment, the accountability, and you know, and that they can actually coexist even after betrayal. So, you know, we really want you to take away that you have to rebuild trust gradually. You know, celebrate those small wins and allow the parties to feel safe, informed, and empowered as they take these steps together.
So, but we're not living in a dream world here. We're not pretending that the betrayer always admits to all their betrayals. As I mentioned earlier, it's not uncommon to discover more wrongful acts once the divorce process has begun. We often find those undisclosed accounts, other assets, undisclosed debts, and sometimes these rise to the level of fraud and illegality. And do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, because there are actually often red flags, and they actually appear in patterns. So it could be like missing statements. So if you get like bank or credit card or investment statements, either they're not provided or they're incomplete, they're missing some pages. That could be a warning sign. Because we really can't say enough that transparency is essential. And, missing documents can indicate that someone's, hiding some sort of activity. Second, sudden transfers in and out of the account, unexplained withdrawals, large frequent transfers, especially to unknown recipients, can possibly signal that, funds are being diverted without consent. Third, there could be fake or unusual debt, and this can include like loans taken out in one spouse name without the other spouse knowing, or unexpected bills and collections. And these are often used to cover prior fraudulent activity or to manipulate finances. Any unusual patterns in statements or transfers or debt deserve careful scrutiny. An early detection is really critical, and a detailed review of the financial records can protect both parties from, further loss and certainly help restore trust. So why don't, if you want to put into the chat, like, what if what we uncover goes beyond betrayal, if it goes to like fraud or illegality? What would you do as a mediator? What would you do as an attorney, as a financial professional, or a mental health professional?
While people are putting those in the chat,
Yeah.
I'll just
Go ahead.
quickly talk about a client who was in a collaborative postnup process with us. And we knew there were $200,000 in unpaid taxes, but then we found out during the discovery process that the husband had also signed her names to those tax returns where $200,000 in taxes were owed. And then he signed her name to a HELOC. So at that point, she's like, I'm not doing a postnup. I want a divorce. But it was through the financial professional on the team that we uncovered all of this. And the husband had no choice but to finally come clean. And there was no defense to it. He had done this. So we all stayed calm and let the financial professional do their job. And we were able to stay collaborative and get divorced. But this is not uncommon at all.
Yeah, but it's important to differentiate betrayal from fraud or illegal activity. So using our example, the tax debt is betrayal. Forging a signature on tax returns or a HELOC, that's illegal. That's fraud.
Yeah. So we're coming towards the end here, and we're ready now to start generating options for settlement. We've gathered all the information we need. We fully understand the situation, and the couple's ready to start thinking about what are we going to do? How are we going to separate financially and end our marriage or agree to these terms for the postnup? But it's critical to keep managing emotions at this stage. If fear or anger or other strong emotions are not properly handled, the parties can get positional and stop the process. And this will interfere with our ability to look at all the different creative solutions when they get into that positional place. Both parties have to continue to feel secure and heard by the whole team, by both attorneys that are helping here, any attorneys on the case if it's in mediation. The professionals need to keep revisiting the emotional readiness to move to these next steps. And we have to keep focusing on the future stability and what they each want rather than what happened and past blame. And that's where reality testing comes in.
Yes, reality testing is key, especially at the final decision point, because the betrayed often feels apprehensive and they may wonder, Can I trust the betrayer to keep their word? Like, has all the relevant information been disclosed? Am I missing something important, right? The uncertainty is normal, but it's important to acknowledge it. Keep in mind that agreements made in the heat of resentment, anger, or guilt are rarely durable. Decisions driven by emotion rather than careful evaluation often lead couples back to the negotiation table or even to court down the road. So this is why reality testing the financial options is so important. You know, you want to run the economic models to make sure the agreements work for both and that they have all of the information. Every decision should be grounded in fact and not emotion. And this is where the financial neutral and the coach play critical roles. They help maintain the balance and the perspective and ensure that both parties are making informed decisions. Even at the very end, hidden fear can derail the resolution. And the resolution isn't just financial, it's about emotional closure. The goal is for both parties to leave the process feeling stronger and empowered and clear about their next steps. You know, even if the betrayal can't, ever be completely erased. And, I'm thinking, I have a couple that comes to mind who left the process feeling stronger, like despite the betrayal. They weren't just agreeing on the numbers, they were able to reclaim their confidence, and sense of control over the future. And that's the ultimate measure of success, not just a financial settlement, but emotional closure and stability. Because in the end, even though I'm a financial professional, I know it's not about the money. While financial misconduct can have monetary consequences, the emotional and psychological impact can be greater than the dollar amount lost. We are looking, as professionals, we're looking to create a durable agreement that can last, and it must work and it must be reasonable for both. It's so easy for parties and professionals to focus primarily on the money and the numbers, but it's imperative to address the emotions and the emotional state of the clients. It's our responsibility to help create a realistic settlement for today and into the future. And the best way to do this is to have a great team in place that's committed to non-adversarial solutions. So it's at that point of the presentation where we'd like to open it up for questions.
Great, thank you so much. Wow, great presentation. See some hands going up. We only have time for maybe a few, but we'll see how many we can get in. Debbie, go ahead.
Yeah, you should listed a lot of great service providers. Would we be able to get an email with the list of all those great people you listed?
I
Sure.
put it in the chat actually, Debbie, in
Okay.
response to your question.
Oh, great. Okay.
The ones that Ivy did mention. There are
Yeah.
others, but this
Yeah.
There are
mentioned.
others, certainly, depending
It
on.
was a great
Yeah.
list. Yeah, at least it gets me started. I liked
Yeah.
it. Thank you. Looking for it.
And then we do have a question in the chat from Janice. Says, I don't think you mentioned loan officers and real estate agents. At what point would you get them involved?
You want to take it?
Well, if there were loans that needed to be taken, we would bring in a loan officer. If there's a property to be sold, we would bring in the real estate agent, or to get appraisals, we'll bring in a financial a real estate appraiser. They might not be around the negotiating table, but these are definitely professionals that would be called upon as the need requires.
Right.
Okay, and I saw Simone, I think this might be the last question. And then please, if you're a guest, stay. Liz Becker is going to talk with you. And we have a couple of other small announcements, but Simone, why don't you ask your question?
Lady, there was a great presentation. Thank you so much. Are you seeing, with all of the whole digitization of gambling and all of this stuff, are you seeing a rise in this type of financial betrayal? or is it kind of the same thing, just different formats?
I think that more people, Andrea, sorry, you don't mind if I answer
Go
this?
ahead. No, go ahead.
Then you can answer, because we may not agree. I think that there are more people that are gambling online. I mean, obviously it's a newer form of gambling, so I think more people have access to it. I also think it's sort of like supplemental. It's one more thing that they can do.
Yeah.
You know, so
One
and
more way to get into trouble, right?
yeah, and like we said before, it's not mutually exclusive. You know, somebody that has an addictive personality, they'll probably express this personality in several different ways.
Good point. Thank you.
You agree, Andrea, right?
I agree. Nothing to add there. I agree. So any other questions, or should we bring this to
I have a
close?
question. I'm sorry I couldn't do the hand raise on the
Sure.
chat for some reason.
Okay.
When Andrea was talking about the post-nuptial agreements, and I think what I'm going to ask would really more apply to that. So if the remedy is that the person, like you were talking about, an addicted person, and if they, I guess, relapse or whatever the scenario was, and then they go ahead and they get the divorce, and that person, though, is a very is the person who's the betrayer is always like in debt, and you want to be able to, at the end of the day, make sure that the other party is no longer responsible for the debts. So realistically, if that person then doesn't qualify for credit because their thing is so messed up, how do you, what's the remedy there?
When you say the remedy, I'm not sure what you mean. I'm sorry.
Well, okay, it's nice to say, okay, that person gets a HELOC and then they pay the HELOC and the other
Oh.
person goes on their way.
Oh,
But realistically, maybe that person doesn't qualify for additional credit at this,
right. Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, I understand that. The situation I was describing, the couple agreed together to take out a HELOC.
Okay.
So the wife was on board. I will sign my name to this HELOC application. We'll take it out. We'll
Okay.
use the money. If we have to sell the home, if the marriage ends, you will now be responsible. It will come out of your share of the equity when we have to pay
Okay.
back the HELOC.
Okay.
We
All right.
weren't saying you should do that. Yeah. So yes, we have to be cognizant of people's credit ratings and
Okay.
scores, and we
Yep.
don't want to set them up for situation that they can't comply with, and we'll never be able to. Won't work for them. So it's reality testing is important in this situation as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, this has been fantastic, ladies. What a thorough presentation. And you can tell by not there being too many questions at the end. That's how I can always tell that you've covered a lot of really valuable information. So thank you for that. For those of you that are CDS designees for your continuing education, the code is in the chat box. I will read it out now. Bear with me 1 minute. It's MMMNOV. BET 25. That's the code that you will use to submit this presentation for continuing education credits. On that